Yeah.
You want to like him, but you can't.
Are you listening?
What?
Are you listening?
Did you bring me on this show to insult me?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all don't want it with us, man. You straight gangsters over here.
Straight
man.
gangsters. Yeah, welcome back. It is a beautiful Friday, and the Scout team is bringing it to you hot and live. You are listening to Scout Team Sports. I am one of your gracious co-hosts. They call me Loudbeard.
You are the most egotistical, self-deluded person I have ever met.
Yes, that is all true. And the man on the other microphone, he's the greatest patriot I've ever met, but I have never met Captain America. And that would be...
Yeah, it's your boy Chris America coming to you live this Friday. We're finally here, Friday, Loudbeard, and I am in a good mood. I'm not going to let last night ruin my mood. I made a decision to bury it. Don't go to sleep angry. That's what the good book says. Loudbeard, I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right. I love to hear that. We have a great show ahead of us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the hot matchups last night. We had Panthers versus Steelers. We had an NC State Wake Forest ACC death match. We had great action in the NBA. And we also have our fantasy draft that we do every Friday. And today's draft topic, go for it, Chris America. Tell our listeners what the great draft we are having ahead of us today.
It is none other than the great, the amazing, the hilarious Will Ferrell movies. And I got to ask, are we doing the same rule that we had with Samuel L. Jackson?
Was that like if he's just playing a minor role, it doesn't count? But as long as it's a major role, he doesn't have to be the main star. But as long as he's like one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 stars in the movie. Okay, yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So like
I'm good with that.
Austin Powers would be out, right?
Yeah, I would say Austin Powers would be out, yeah.
I mean, at least the first one. I can't remember how much he was in the second one, but he was in the first one for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, no, Austin Powers would be out, but there's a lot of other great Will Ferrell movies that you can...
tons and tons and tons.
Yeah, this is a good category. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm nervous for you, Chris America, because I'm really getting hungry with these polls because I've been losing on these fantasy drafts the last few weeks, and I'm ready to hit this one out of the park, so you should be nervous.
I am nervous, and I don't know how good you're going to draft because sometimes you like to go a little loosey-goosey with your picks. You like to go out into left field and basically hand me over the draft.
Well, I always like to have at least one crazy pick. I feel like if I go conservative with everything, I'm not doing my fans justice. My fans want to hear craziness. They want to hear a little sideways, wild, off-the-wall picks. That's what they want to see. That's what they want to hear. And then when we put a poll out on Twitter, these are the conservative guys that don't have any creativity. They don't like hearing all this craziness. So when I lose, when we put this poll up on Twitter about our fantasy draft teams, it doesn't hurt my feelings because I know in the end, I'm always going to be the winner.
Like, I don't know if you're going to just come out of left field and just select Bewitched.
No, absolutely not. Bewitched is not on my list. But
Pretty sure
there
if you
are some
select
other...
Bewitched, you will lose handedly.
Yeah, I've got a few other ones on here that are questionable. So if you name any more, I can't say whether they will be or they won't be on my list because I don't want to give it away. You're trying to do the whole sleight of hand, see what I've got in my hand. You're trying to figure me out. I see what you're doing here, Chris America. The answer is no. There is no Bewitched, but now that you mentioned it, it could make an appearance.
I feel like we should test it out. We should put a whole bunch of really, really good movies like Elf and Step Brothers and Ron Burgundy and Anchorman. No, sorry, I just said Anchorman and Talladega Nights, and then throw in Bewitched just to see if the one awful movie discredits everything and makes them vote for you.
That's a good theory. We may or may not try that. We'll save that for next week. We'll do something fun next week, and we'll do a little experiment with the listeners.
All right. So the Carolina Panthers need to experiment with their defensive playbook, defensive game plan, or just never play on Thursday nights. Loudbeard, that was one of the most embarrassing losses I've seen any of my teams take. They basically laid down. We asked if it was going to be who's your daddy between Luke Kuechly and James Conner. It was, man, I don't have words to describe it. The only good thing I got out of last night is Christian McCaffrey got me like 30 points in fantasy.
We live in the real world here, sir. This isn't a fantasy world that we live in. I know you always like to go to your fantasies, but that's okay. Just living in
them to escape reality, man.
If
you're not escaping the fantasy world every once in a while, you're doing life wrong. Just throwing that out there.
All right, I can dig it. So this is what I took from this game, Chris America. There's a couple things. One, I feel you because my Redskins took a huge loss to the Falcons last week. Your team gets momentum, you look good, you feel good, and then all of a sudden you just get like knocked down, right? You take this big loss. So it's a tough loss here for the Panthers because the Panthers had a great thing going, had some good wins strung together, and all of a sudden they come in, and the Steelers right now, the chemistry and what they are doing on offense, it's a well-oiled machine. And I would say that when the Steelers tied the Browns earlier in the year and we did our overreaction early season stuff, I had left the Steelers for dead. I didn't think this team was going to pull it together. I was really concerned about Bell not coming out to the team and holding out and doing everything that he's doing. I thought it would affect them, and it may have affected them early in the season, but they have turned it around. The Steelers look like a dangerous team right now. And I do want to apologize to you, Chris America. I forgot how my kiss of death works. And when I selected your Panthers as the potential winner of this game, I accidentally gave them the kiss of death. Now, I also did it with James Conner, telling you that he would get over 100 yards and a touchdown. He only had 65 yards and 1 touchdown, so he obviously had a lackluster game because he had 4 games in a row with 100 yards or more. So your defensive line did their job. It's just the 5 touchdowns that Big Ben threw on you. And it wasn't just to one guy. It's like he's throwing to Juju, he's throwing to Antonio Brown, he's throwing to Vance McDonald. He's all over the field. I mean, they sliced up your defense like it was a wet paper bag of vomit.
Yeah, Ian was texting me from 12 Ounce Sports, No Bull with Hole, or what is their name of their show now?
Now it's The Kicker and the Outlaw.
The Kicker and the Outlaw, that's right. So The Kicker and the Outlaw, he was texting me, asking me what was going on, and, I basically said what I just said just now, and then I mentioned it's hard to believe that this Steelers team hasn't won any Super Bowls in the last 6 or 7 years. They just have so many weapons and so much talent on that team. It is really mind-boggling that they haven't won more. Even in the playoffs, they haven't even really gone to – how many AFC championships have they gone to the last 5 or 6 years? 1, 2?
Yeah, it hasn't been as many as it should have been. That's for sure.
But just when they're firing on all cylinders, I don't care who you have on defense, man. It's just they're unstoppable, man. The Antonio Browns, the Juju Schuster-Smiths, now the James Connors, and when you have Big Ben who's playing lights out, forget it. You're going to get run over by that offense. You better come right on your side of the football, on your offense, and the Carolina Panthers didn't do that except for Christian McCaffrey, man. Yeah,
Christian McCaffrey had an amazing game. It's one of those bright spots for your team. I think he had what? He led the team in receiving. He led the team in rushing. He had 3 total TDs. He was basically the offense, 100%. And you can't do that. You need a little bit more of a balance like the Steelers had. Now, there was a big hit in this game. Eric Reed, the controversial safety, comes in with a late hit on Ben Roethlisberger as he's sliding. He ends up getting ejected for this big hit. This guy's been known throughout his career as being a big hitter, so this doesn't surprise me. But now it's becoming a little bit of a distraction, I think, for the Panthers because this guy is involved with so much. Since he's joined the team, he had all that beef with Malcolm Jenkins. He was in the spotlight for that. Now he's getting this big hit on Big Ben. Obviously, that's going to be a headline. I don't know, man. Is Eric Reed working out for you guys, or you think he's become more of a distraction than a help to your team?
No, man. Eric Reed's helped out big time. He got a game ball last week. The coach handed him a game ball, so clearly he's not a distraction to the team. This is just propaganda from the propaganda machine, Loudbeard. Don't spew out the propaganda. Number one, that big hit wasn't that big of a hit. He was coming for the tackle, and Roethlisberger slid. And the hit was awkward, and you could tell that Eric Reed was already committed to hitting Roethlisberger, and he started seeing him slide. So he kind of did like this flip over, and then his shoulder is what connected with Ben Roethlisberger's head, and it snapped back, and it looked violent. And I believe with the rules that was targeting. You should throw him out. We're trying to get rid of that. I'm never against throwing out people for targeting because we're trying to get rid of that kind of thing. So, no, he's not a distraction. And I've already mentioned the Steelers looked awesome. The Steelers whooped us up. The Steelers won this game. So do not take this as a typical Panther fan or a typical football fan that's going to complain about referees and the referees are where we lost. But the refereeing last night was one-sided, and it was terrible, Loudbeard. They had a missed face mask on McCaffrey's touchdown. The Pitt tight end bobbled the touchdown as he's going in. Everybody in the booth said, wow, this should be reviewed. This pass needs to be reviewed. We've seen passes look worse than this or less worse than this, and they got reviewed and overturned. No review, no overturn of the touchdown. Watt lowered his head and launched into Cam Newton, no flag. Big Ben on a run, he grabbed a face mask, no flag. And a fourth down stop was entirely short by an entire yard, and it was first down, no review. And, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't even get their first flag until 6 minutes in the fourth quarter. Loudbeard, that's awful refereeing. It was just bad. It was one-sided, and the NFL needs to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the NFL's doing their job. This was the first year they actually fired an official during the middle of the season because I think they're realizing that some of the officiating needs to be improved. But I think this is also a systematic issue because they can call in from whichever, like in New York at the headquarters of the NFL, they're also viewing this. They can call in and say, hey, this needs to be reviewed, especially on scoring plays. They should review all scoring plays. And just some of these are pretty controversial. And I also agree with you on the Cam Newton hit. Yeah, why does Cam Newton always get the no calls? I feel like they're like, okay, you're big and tough, and they don't give him a call. But on the other side, Big Ben is kind of like the same type of guy, and he gets more calls than Cam does. Cam has had that problem his whole career, though, and it's just another issue again last night. Now, he's not making a big deal of it. He's actually been pretty good. When he gets these no calls, he's learned that he just says, all right, we're just moving on to the next game, and he doesn't make a big deal about it because he's a professional, and that's what he should do. But, yeah, you're right, man. The officiating has to improve in the NFL. We have all this technology. We have billions of dollars in the NFL, and they can have all of the technology and all of the resources, the people to view these, and they still screw it up, and I don't understand how that goes. Now, another narrative that I'm creating from last night is the Steelers are so good right now. They are just, everything seems to be going their way. Could it be possible, because the owner of the Steelers, Rooney, comes out and he says, hey, guess what? Bell, I believe, is going to report next week. If Le'Veon Bell comes back, do you think that could possibly have a negative effect on the chemistry of this Steelers team that right now is just, they can't be slowed down?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that yesterday with the Alston and the Rafer Alston and Jameer Nelson scenario. It definitely could hurt, and especially when you have two running backs that are pretty similar with Connor and Bell, you always want like a thunder and lightning if you're going to have a dual threat running back. And, sorry, somebody started singing behind me in the studio. Yeah, so you want like a thunder and lightning type duo. You don't want two lightnings. You kind of, when you come out, you already know what each player is going to do, I guess. I don't know, man. We'll see how it works out. And you've been sitting out from the NFL since, what, January is the last time Le'Veon Bell played?
Yeah, I mean the last playoff game that he was in, that would be quite a while. I mean he's
So we're
going to
looking at
probably
11
be a little
months now.
rusty. Yeah,
11 months of no football, no contact, no running. I mean, I know you're working out. I know you're doing all that other stuff, but
he's also in clubs in Miami, I'm sure.
he's going to clubs. He's playing pickup basketball games. He's probably been on a banana boat, and we just don't even know it yet.
He's got to be, man. Absolutely got to be. Hey, so we've got 15 minutes in, and all we've talked about is one game. I felt like there might have been another game that happened last night, and I'm just saying that the number 14th ranked team in all of college football played last night. You think this would have been just a devastating game for whatever opponent that they're going up against, because a team that jumps so high in the rankings so quickly must be so good, especially when they're in a Power 5 conference. A Power 5 conference that is just the death lineup of Power 5 conferences. And what do you get? You get a ho-hum Wake Forest that gets a good victory over an NC State that was overranked because, as you've mentioned 100 times, the narrative of the College Football Playoff Ranking Committee is to get the ACC to look a little bit better than they actually are so that Clemson's strength of schedule can actually look like they're a real good team. And last night, it was proven again, NC State is not that good. Wake Forest is not that good, and two bad teams going against each other. One of them has to win, and it wasn't the 14th ranked team in all of college football.
You ready for the Power 5 spin on this, Loudbeard?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Because, when you guys beat 5-4 Temple by 12 points and they outgained you, it was, you're awful, you don't deserve, this is what's so bad about the American Athletic Conference. You lost to a bad team, or you didn't lose, but you almost lost, and you were losing in like halftime and blah, blah, blah. So here's the Power 5 spin. Listen, Loudbeard, you just don't understand what it's like to have the grind of an ACC or a Power 5 conference schedule. Any team can beat any team at any moment's notice, and that's just how it is in that life, and UCF just doesn't understand. Sure, Wake Forest got blown out by Florida State, another trash football team who almost lost to Samford. Sure, they lost to that team, but you just don't understand. Wake Forest is just better than any American Athletic Conference team. If Wake Forest was in the American Athletic Conference, they would not only win the football conference, but they would also put on a baseball uniform and win the baseball conference too, with the same football team.
Wait, hold on a second. Was that an audio clip from College Game Day? I felt like that was an audio clip from College Game Day.
I sounded just like Kirk Herbstreit, right?
That was a Kirk Herbstreit reenactment, and dude, you nailed it. I don't even know what to say because that was exactly what we're going to hear this weekend. That's exactly what the narrative has been. All of those talking heads, they are sickening, and Kirk Herbstreit and Paul Feinbaum, to me, are the two most sickening ones. They're so biased, and they have no decent opinions. And I just, I guess that's all I've got to say to that.
The College Football Committee, in all of their wisdom, moved NC State up 6 or 7 spots after they beat the mighty and the powerful. Who did they beat last week? Now I just lost their schedule. Why? Is
you know who it was? It was the forgettable team over there in the Florida State. Is that a
yes? They beat
still?
the almighty Florida State. And even though NC State was, they've lost 2 out of the last 3, and now they've lost 3 out of the last 4, the College Football Committee, in all of their wisdom, all of the things that we need to trust them to pick the top 4 teams, moved up this team 6 spots to number 14, to just 2 behind UCF, and that's how they get rewarded.
It's
just so you know, a team that's
disgrace.
lost 3 out of the last 4 weeks was moved up 7 or 6 spots in the College Football Power Committee. But yes, we're supposed to know that this committee knows what the hell they're talking about when it comes to college football.
Yeah, and it also proves the fact that the ACC is just a down conference, and there's just no power there, and they're trying to hype it up, man. And it doesn't make any sense. It's a disgrace. It's disgusting, and we have talked way too much about this over the last few weeks, but it hits me in a little emotional spot in my
Reality
heart.
is, if you take Clemson out of the ACC, it looks just like the American Athletic Conference.
100
Plain and simple.
And 10% right there, man. 110%. All right, so we're going to have this fantasy draft after the commercial break. I've got a ton of stuff that happened last night. I'm going to move on to the NBA if you don't mind, unless you have any other college football nuggets that you want to go into.
No, I think that's it.
All right, so I got some NBA action last night and some good matchups. Number one, the Golden State Warriors, they take a big loss last night to the Milwaukee Bucks. Man, the Milwaukee Bucks have overachieved this year. I am excited about what this team is bringing. And young Giannis, the Greek freak, he is dropping points. He drops 24 points last night, and he's throwing down monster dunks left and right. And the Bucks win 134 to 111. That's a pretty significant beating that they put on the Warriors, which is surprising because the Warriors, being the super team that they are, you wouldn't think that they would take a beating like that. But 134 to 111. But the big loss last night for the Warriors, Steph Curry goes out with an injury. They're saying that it's an abductor strain, but they're sending him out for an MRI today. So this could end up being a bigger issue for the Warriors if this ends up being a serious injury. Now,
did you say abductor strain?
Yes.
Is that like what you use to abduct people with in your UFO? I've never heard of that before.
Abductor. So an abductor strain.
San Diego?
Yeah. I can't say the last part of that. I just want to so bad right now. Nope, I'm not going to do it. But Curry's out, and that could have some implications. The good news is it's so early in the season, and it is a long NBA season. I'm sure he's going to be back soon, or if it is more of a major injury, I don't think it would be a season-ending injury by any means. So they will be back at full force come to the playoffs. So let's see what happens. No updates right now, but this is a story that we're going to keep an eye on here in the future. But the Warriors, without Steph, still have a ton of firepower. So I don't think the fans should be too worried, but they're going to want their big star when it comes down to crunch time. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, Loudbeard, speaking of fans that should be worried, we've made an awfully big deal about LeBron James being 4-6. Now he's 5-6. A team that we haven't made any big of a deal about yet, and maybe we should now that they've lost again last night, are the 4-6 Rockets. They're 0-4 at home. Should the Houston Rockets be hitting the panic button 10 games into the season?
Well, I'm going to say yes. I'm glad you brought this up because they lose to the Thunder last night. The score is the telling sign to me. It's 98-80. So the Thunder win without Russell Westbrook. So Paul George carries the Thunder. He gets a good double-double, 20 points, and great win for the Thunder. They won 7 straight. They're pulling it together.
Which is crazy considering the 0-4 start. I mean, I was thinking Billy Donovan's out. Theirs should be hitting the panic button, and then, like you just said, man, 7 straight wins, and they cap off their 7-game winning streak with a huge victory over Houston.
Right, and Houston's supposed to be this powerhouse. Now, last night, like they've had some suspensions, they've had some injuries, but last night they had their 3 big stars, Clint Capella, James Harden, and CP3, all on the floor, and they were only able to score 80 points. Last year, the same Houston Rockets team, when those 3 guys were in, they had only lost like 3 games all season in the regular season. They were just such a dynamic team when all of their big 3 guys were in there together, and they were scoring 120 points regularly. Now they score 80. They have completely lost all of their mojo. And right now I would be hitting the panic button. Now, I hate to say this because this is me going out on a limb here, but bringing in Carmelo Anthony, wherever Carmelo goes, it seems like there's a black cloud over his head, and I don't know if he's a chemistry killer or if he's a morale killer or what he does to a team, but I don't ever see Carmelo Anthony going to a team and it working out as a benefit to that team. It always seems like he is a detriment. Even though he's a scorer, even though he's a big-time name, anytime Carmelo goes to a team, it seems like they get worse.
Yeah, and this is the worst we've seen since he's been to the Knicks. At least with the Knicks, we said he doesn't really have anybody else around him. Now he has a great team around him, and he's bringing them down like he's never brought down a team before. Look, I get it. It's 10 games into the season, but what else are we going to talk about between now and June? We're going to talk about this stuff, man. And overreaction Friday, we have to overreact. If we're going to give LeBron James crap about starting off 2-6 or 4-6 or 5-6 now, then you have to give crap to the Houston Rockets and what they have going on, and the fact that they're 4-6. If the playoffs started today, they would be out. They would not be out, and they would be out by several games. So I know, again, it's early in the season. It's a long season. Obviously, the Houston Rockets will make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. But if they can't figure this thing out on a consistent basis, if this is going to be what they look like consistently, they are not winning the playoffs.
Yeah, this is a team that was one game away from making the finals last year and upsetting the Golden State Warriors, and they were just on fire all year long. This was the hot team, and they really haven't changed a whole lot. And you come back this year, and there's a hangover there. There's no chemistry. There's no, I don't know what it is, but it is just not working out. And I don't know. I just don't know what the answer is for the Warriors. But I mean, I'm sorry, it's the Warriors, the Rockets. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll have to see that. We'll see what happens. So Memphis Spence tweeting at us. We are the Scout Team, and if you want to hit us up on Twitter, you hit us up at Scout Team Radio. A good friend and listener of the show, Memphis Spence, he just tweeted, and he tweeted the Warriors on NBCS, which is a news source with a story. It says Steph Curry to undergo MRI on Friday after suffering a left adductor, not abductor. I said
not abductor.
Adductor strain versus Bucks. So guess what? He's not an abductor. I said it wrong. My bad. But he is having the strain. This could be bad news, Memphis Spence. I'm just telling you right now. I don't know about you, but I'm a little nervous.
Listen
Another
here,
guy.
Loudbeard, I forgot to mention to you on Halloween, I was out there trick-or-treating, and them aliens, they came in, they adducted me.
You are an adductor.
I
Hey,
just
one
wanted
other
to-
guy I do need to talk about though. I got to move on, Chris America, because we're going to be up against the commercial break, and I need to get this off my chest.
Get it off your chest. We're
I
here
feel
for you,
like
Loudbeard.
There's two things that have happened in the last week that has really motivated an NBA player. Kyrie Irving, he saw the poll that was out on Twitter the other day that said, is Kyrie Irving a top 10 player? And the fans voted, and the fans said he is not a top 10 player. So Kyrie says, all right, I see what you're trying to do here. I need to get back on this horse. I need to show my fans, show the world that I'm a top 10 player. And then he listened to my rant on Scout Team After Dark about how he's a crybaby and he needs to step up and yada, yada, yada. You know, that whatever I said, I can't even remember. I had a couple drinks in me at that moment because it was after dark. And Kyrie, he comes and he leads his team last night to a comeback. He drops 39 points in a big overtime win. And Kyrie's trying to make his case to all of our listeners and to all of the fans out in the world that he is a top 10 guy. But Kyrie, I just want to tell you, dropping 39 on the Phoenix Suns does not impress me much.
No, letting the Phoenix Suns go up 32-13 in the first quarter, that speaks more volumes than putting 39 points. And the fact that you needed overtime to beat the Phoenix Suns speaks a lot.
I'm just telling you, Kyrie, when I know you're listening right now, I'm not overly impressed with what is going on here. And I just wanted to let you know, I know you're a big listener and a big fan, and I'm sorry if I keep hurting your feelings. I know you're a very sensitive guy. You're very emotional. But I just want to let you know, you got to work a little bit harder if you want to get in this top 10 conversation. You got to really put forth that effort. And putting 39 on the Phoenix Suns, okay, it's a start. But it is just the Phoenix Suns. So just hold your horses there, Kyrie, because I don't know if I can put you in the top 10 yet, and I really don't think Chris America can either, even though he was your biggest advocate.
I was a big
fan for
advocate.
so
The
long.
people spoke, and I listened to the people. That's what we do in America. We let the people speak, and then you accept what the American people want. And right now, Kyrie Irving's not top 10, but he does have a chance to continue to earn his way into your heart. He's got a tough road ahead of him. The next 6 games at Utah, at Portland, Chicago at home, Toronto at home, Utah at home. That's a tough 6-game sled.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see if Kyrie can really work his way back into the hearts of America.
Speaking of winning our hearts into America, which one of us will select the movie that came into the hearts of America, the Christmas movie, as we pick Will Ferrell Movies Fantasy Draft?
When I'm working hard, I build up a thirst for sports. That's when I grab a cold 12-ounce sports radio. "12-ounce sports radio. Quench your sports thirst."
Oh, guess who it is? Did you know the station had a janitor? Oh yeah, the Hefe, otherwise known as Beck. And it's Beck's Work Week in Review live on 12-Ounce Sports Radio every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Catch interviews, special guests, and the recap of the week's news and headlines and box scores and results. It's Beck's Work Week in Review live on 12-Ounce Sports Radio.
Scout Team listeners and friends of the show, I've got something special for you. It looks like 12-Ounce Sports Radio has done it again. We have partnered with Rally House. You just go to the website, 12ozsportsradio.com. Click on the banner on the right side of the page, and it will take you directly to Rally House. Rally House has some of the greatest, most unique sports items for that diehard fan, casual fan, and anybody and everybody out there that is special in your life. So go ahead and check it out. Once again, go to that website, 12ozsportsradio.com. Click on the banner to the right of the page, and you will get taken to the best sports merchandise website on all of the interweb. Do you own a small business? Are you looking for solutions to all of your communications, problems, and challenges that you have? Check out Ring Central. Give them a call. They have partnered with 12ouncesportsradio.com to give you the best rates on all of your business and office solutions for communication. Give them a call today. We have a dedicated line for all of the 12-ounce sports radio listeners. It is 1-877-779-3860. You will get a representative on the phone who will help you with all of your small business communications needs. Once again, give them a call today, 1-877-779-3860. Welcome back. You are listening to the Scout Team. It is a beautiful Friday morning, November 9th, and we are excited to be bringing in our fantasy draft here in just a few moments. I just want to say thank you all for listening in. We go live every weekday, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. and again at 11 a.m. on 12ouncesportsradio.com. And also, if you want to catch any of our older episodes, we drop every episode on a podcast. You can catch it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or our website, scoutteamradio.com. We are also social butterflies, and Chris America and myself, Loudbeard, are the biggest social butterflies on all of the planet. We love to tweet. You can catch us on Twitter at Scout Team Radio, and we get social with our Facebook page and our Instagram at Scout Team Radio. Make sure you check all of those out. But with all of that being said, without further ado, is Chris America a cotton-headed Ninny Muggins?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, am I a cotton-headed Minnie Muggins?
Yeah. All right, well, I think
I
you gotta
wear it
go
with
first
pride.
this
I actually
week,
have a
right?
shirt that says, I'm a cotton-headed Mini Muggins, and then Miss America has a shirt that says I'm with a cotton-headed Mini Muggins, and it has a little finger pointing to me.
Nerd.
Nerd alert.
So what's up, man? What are you ready for this draft? I feel like you've been preparing for this your entire life, and this is your one moment. And I think last week I went first, if I remember correctly, and I had the sneaky good jigsaw pick that nobody really appreciated. So I think this is the week that you can go first, and we are drafting our favorite, our best, our whatever Will Ferrell movies. And you and I are going to have a battle royale where we post the results on Twitter, and we will put a poll out there to see who has the best draft. And Chris America, with the first draft pick, I hand the mic over to you.
I get accused of playing it safe so many times, Loudbeard. I get accused of, taking the safe picks, and you get picked for the wild pick. So with my first pick, I'm going to pick wild. I'm going to pick out of left field. I'm going to go willy-nilly with this time around because I'm like you when you picked Circus Peanuts right now. I got a big lead. I know I have a big lead on you, so I can just pick whatever I want and hope that I win. So with my number one overall pick, it's still kind of a safe pick, but it's a wild card. It's an out there. There's definitely a lot safer picks to make with the number one overall selection, but I'm going to go with Old School.
How's that not a safe pick?
Because when you look at his other movies, that's not his top movie. There's a clear number one Will Ferrell movie that is above and beyond everything else. This is the Reese's Pieces. My pick is Reese's Pieces. What you're going to pick, if you make the right choice, is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
I don't know. Is there one that stands above the rest?
Yes. I'm not going to give it to you.
I've got like 3 or 4 that I think are in the top echelon of Will Ferrell movies. So I'm going to get my opportunity. Honestly, Old School is my favorite Will Ferrell movie.
It's my favorite Will Ferrell movie as well.
You're
but
my
it's
boy,
not
Blue.
It's not the number one Will Ferrell movie. Like when you go across the board and you ask people, there is one movie that is just head and shoulders above all of them. So go ahead and make that pick, Loudbeard.
Okay. Wow. Now there's a lot of pressure. You're acting like I should know exactly. I'm gonna go Anchorman with my number one pick. Is that the one? Or no,
that's not.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. I there's other ones out there that are good. I mean, okay.
Is that your pick? Is Anchorman?
Yeah, I'm going Anchorman.
The first one?
Yeah.
Do I pull the trigger? I can't make this next pick because I'll win if I make this next pick.
All right.
So
go
I'm gonna scroll down past the number one overall pick, but I can't go too safe.
Are you going Blades of Glory?
Yeah. I actually did like that movie. A lot of people didn't.
It was pretty
but
funny.
But I thought it was funny.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
in my top 12.
I'm gonna keep you up right. I'm gonna go Talladega Nights to Ballad of Ricky Bobby.
All right.
I can't just hand it to you. You have to earn it. But I'm still gonna leave the number one overall Will Ferrell movie. And if you leave it up there for the third pick, I gotta take it.
Well, I've got 2 left that I would say would be his top ones. You're making me feel like I'm not a Will Ferrell expert here. I guess I'll have to go. This is the safer pick. There's another one that you're probably the one you're thinking of, but I don't know that it's got the same overall love. But I'm going to go with Elf. Got to go with the Elf.
That's the exact movie I'm talking about.
You're saying that Elf is by far above everything. Is it because it's a Christmas movie? I mean,
yes.
It's a great movie, but I don't know if I would put that number one above everything.
I wouldn't either, personally. But when you ask people about what their favorite Will Ferrell movie is, overall, just across America, it's got to be Elf. It's a movie that people watch every single year. Like, I don't make a point to watch Talladega Nights once a year or a point to watch Old School once a year, but I make a point to watch Elf every single year. And it's a generally accepted Will Ferrell movie that just everybody can watch. Like, Talladega Nights is not a movie for everybody. Old School, definitely not a movie for everybody, but Elf is by far, it's a movie for the kids, it's a movie for your mom, it's a movie for grandmas and grandpas. Like, everybody can watch Elf.
Okay. You won me. I'm glad I picked it.
All right, I'm gonna go. Let's see. I'm gonna go another wild card. Another movie that I really like that many people didn't. I'm gonna go with The Other Guys. I know that's your favorite movie as well. You picked it for. I think you wanted to pick it for the Rock movies, or did you? You picked The Other Guys for the Rock, didn't you?
I think I did, just because of one scene that is the
Yeah.
most hilarious scene ever.
It is pretty hilarious.
All right, so now we're getting into a little bit more of the nitty gritty, and the nitty gritty I would say is, that second tier of movies. I have a couple choices here. I'm gonna say my fifth pick is gonna be a little bit out of the left field, so my last pick is gonna be kind of exciting. But this pick, I'm gonna go with Step Brothers. Step Brothers is a pretty hilarious movie that I don't think gets the love that it deserves. I'm going Step Brothers with my third pick.
All right, with my fourth pick, I'm going to continue to be wild card and just pick what I like, the movies that I like. And again, sometimes Will Ferrell's best role is the complimentary role, like he was in Old School and like he is in this movie.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I knew
What?
it. That was. Oh, you're going to take my pick. You're going to take my pick. I know you are. Just do it. Just pull the Band-Aid.
Because Hans is so hot right now.
Oh, I knew it. Damn it. I should have. I was in between that and Step. Oh, that's your Reese's cup.
Oh, Zoolander. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, man. Like, I watch that movie and I laugh every single time. I'm just glad that I'm an ambi turner, and I still, to this day, I feel bad. I donate to charities for non-ambi turners out there, and it's great.
That hurts. That hurts. Now I'm really getting to the nitty gritty. Let's see. I'm crossing other guys off. You did that one. I already did Step Brothers, Old School. Looking at my list here. Zoolander. All right. So
see what happens when I go wild off the walls, Loudbeard. I start picking all of your movies.
I'm telling you, I like your list better than mine at this point. All right. So, I'm gonna go with a movie that is starring Will Ferrell, but it's starring the voice of Will Ferrell. And
are you going Curious George?
I am not going Curious George.
Okay. Lego Movie?
The Lego Movie. I
That
like the
is a
Lego
great-
Movie.
no, I love the
it's
Lego Movie.
Phenomenal.
It was
Yeah.
surprisingly good because, we're both dads. Sometimes you go into kids' movies and you're like, oh, I guess I have to take, like, Good Thing I Love You because I really do not want to sit through 2 hours of a kids' movie. And every once in a while, a kids' movie just blows you away and you're like, oh my gosh, thank you for being so good. Thank you for having so many adult relatable humor in this movie that I can laugh at and enjoy. And Lego Movie is definitely that movie.
I've had nightmares about the Craggle for weeks.
The Craggle. All right. What do we have left here? You took off
Get
Step Brothers.
nitty-gritty.
That was one that I really wanted. We did mention Blades of Glory. There's Semi-Pro sitting out there. There's some of his other weird movies like Stranger Than Fiction, The Campaign, Land of the Lost. You know what? I'm going to go old school. I'm going to go all the way
You already
back.
picked Old School.
No, yeah. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, where we first fell in love with Will Ferrell, and that was back in his Saturday Night Live days. And one of the funny skits that got made into a movie was A Night at the Roxbury.
No!
I'm going there.
That was
I'm going
my last
all the way
pick.
back.
You gotta be kidding me. Emilio!
This is what happens when I decide to pick weird and pick off the wall, Loudbeard. I make your picks.
That was it. That is such a good movie. It's so underrated. That I watched that movie probably 20, 30 times. I loved it. I loved it when it first came out. Yeah. I don't even know what to say anymore.
Just pick Bewitched and move on with it, or Kicking and Screaming.
No, I can't do it. I'm going to do Get Hard. It's not as cool as your movie, but the one with him and Kevin Hart, and he's got to be, like a prisoner or something.
Yeah,
it's
Get
funny.
Hard. Oh, you should have gone Superstar.
Nah, I'm telling you, The Night at the Roxbury, man. God, I'm mad now. I'm pissed. You're never drafting first again. Night at the Roxbury. There's no way. I sat there and said, okay, last week I picked Jigsaw first, and that's like one of my favorites. I said this week, and you said, oh, that would have been on the board late. And I was thinking to myself, okay, Night at the Roxbury, there's no way he's drafting that. I can save it till my last pick. I don't even need to worry about it. And there you go. You take my old school, you take Zoolander, you take Night at the Roxbury. Anyway, I'm just moving on.
Do you want to hear how that pick was made?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had up a list of his top 10 movies, and then I had to switch off of that website because we pretty much went through his top 10, and I didn't like the ones that were left over. And
Right.
I'm scrolling through this other list, and I'm scrolling through, and as I'm listing off all these, like I was talking about the campaign and Stranger Than Fiction. This is me actually scrolling through. I didn't mention Megamind. I should have. And then I see Night of the Roxbury at number 18, and I'm like, oh my God, there it is. There's the pick I'm looking for, and it just spoke out to
The
me.
unicorn.
If it wasn't for me switching off of the one website and going to this other one, you would have had Night of the Roxbury.
Please let's not talk about this. Can we move on to some sports, because I can't even talk about this anymore. Chris,
And we didn't pick any of
America-
his sports movies other than his NASCAR one. And if I can tell, I don't normally give, hey, listen to this national radio show. And we hate on a lot of national radio shows. One of the ones I actually like is Rich Eisen. And if you get a chance to listen to his interview with Dale Earnhardt Jr. from yesterday, it is a really good interview. And he talks about his concussions and what he went through and what caused him to retire and everything. So it was really good. Sorry, that was a little bit of a segue into NASCAR since we were talking Talladega Nights. But what else you got?
All right, well, I think for the rest of the show, we should just look forward to this great weekend of games that we have ahead of us. We got NFL and college both going at it, and I'm going to go ahead and start us out with some NFL and my Who's Your Daddies. I want to give you a couple questions here for you, Chris America. First of all, the Sunday Night Football game coming up this weekend, Cowboys versus Eagles. You've got a big NFC matchup. Now, you've got the Eagles, who are the reigning Super Bowl champions, and the Cowgirls, who you know that I dislike and despise. So I'm going to ask you, Chris America, Ezekiel Elliott going up against that Eagles defensive line.
Who's your daddy?
If there's one thing that the Eagles have been a little suspect in, it's been their tackling. Their tackling has been very, very bad, and that's why they've given up so many points to teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's why my Carolina Panthers were able to come back down 17-0 in the fourth quarter. So I think this is a perfect game for Ezekiel Elliott, but he's going to need help from Dak Prescott in the passing game. Otherwise, they are just going to load the box, and even if he misses one tackler miss or two tacklers miss, if they load 9 in the box or 8 in the box, it's not going to matter. Because if 2 guys miss, there's going to be 5 guys right there ready to make the tackle. So right now I'm going to say Ezekiel Elliott, but it's going to rely on what Dak Prescott can do to keep the Eagles defense honest.
All right, so who's winning the game?
I got to go with the Eagles. The What's Up Sports guys, they made a really good point that, they dive in deep. They were on yesterday from noon to 2 on 12-Ounce Sports Radio. I think they're on every Wednesday from noon to 2. Or sorry, Thursday was yesterday. They made a good point that every single Dallas Cowboys loss has been against a mobile quarterback. And Wentz, while he's not going to light you up like, Deshaun Watson will, he's still a very mobile quarterback, and he's still very good outside of the pocket throwing the ball or running it. So I'm going to go with the Eagles based on that trend.
All right, great assessment there. Saints versus Bengals. You've got the dynamic Alvin Kamara, young superstar, but the Bengals have a little bit of a wild card on their side. Joe Mixon having quite the year. Alvin Kamara versus Joe Mixon.
Who's your daddy?
I got to go with Alvin Kamara, man. This guy's been lights out all season long. Everybody went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over Saquon Barkley and everything, and for some, it's deserved a little bit. I don't know if we're going to say he's a once-in-generational player, but Alvin Kamara and Saquon Barkley are basically the same guy as far as being able to run and catch the ball and all this other stuff. This is pretty much the new norm for running backs if you want to make it in the NFL. You got Saquon Barkley, you got Le'Veon Bell, now you have James Conner, and you have Alvin Kamara that are just that type of hybrid of power versus speed. Kamara just does it better than Mixon does right now. Loudbeard, I don't know if you know this, and this is kind of surprising. The Saints actually probably needed Des Bryant, and that sounds weird because they're putting up lots of points. But did you know outside of Thomas and Kamara, the next receiver or any player on the team with the most receptions is 12. 12 is the most receptions anybody else has had outside of Kamara and Thomas. That makes you very one-dimensional and allows defenses, once they kind of catch film later on in the season, especially in the playoffs, to be able to hone in on those two guys. And now you got to tell the other guys, hey, even though you only have 12 passes through 9 games, we're going to have to rely on you. Or 12 catches, sorry.
Yeah, and I think that's to Ben Watson, their tight end. I don't even think – I mean, there's a serious drop-off after Thomas, and there was depth issues there on in the wide receiver core. So, yeah, big pickup for them. Now, I think you're going to go Saints over the Bengals in this one. Bengals are a tough team, but the Saints are on fire. Who do you got?
Yeah, no A.J. Green makes it a lot easier. I mean, I would probably pick the Saints even with A.J. Green, but no A.J. Green makes it even easier to pick the Saints. The Bengals are a good team. They're a solid team. They're not on that level of the Saints yet.
No, not yet. Now, this one I'm selecting because of my own bias, and that's right. I'm a Redskins fan. I'm actually going to be in Tampa watching this game this weekend. Redskins are going up against the Bucks. Black Captain America, Mr. Adrian Peterson, going up against Fitzmagic.
Who's your daddy?
Well, even though I still think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got blown out, even though it was a 14-point win. I mean, we basically gave up junk touchdowns and junk. We played conservative once we went up 35-7. Fitzmagic still had a great game. Adrian Peterson, on the other hand, showed his age last week, had a slowed down game, but I think this is a good matchup for his defense, or a good defensive matchup for him, where I think Fitzmagic is going to have a hard time throwing against a really, outside of the Falcons game, has been a lights-out defense for the Redskins. So I'm going to go Adrian Peterson for the win. X goes to the square.
All right. Does that mean you got the Redskins for the win also, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
Right?
I mean, come on. It's the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Right? Okay,
yes.
Cool. All right. Seahawks versus Rams. This is a good one. You're going old versus young. Old Pete Carroll versus young Sean McVay.
Who's your daddy?
Where's this game at? Do you know?
I don't have it down on my notes.
All right.
I'd have to look it up.
I don't think it matters, really.
Nope.
I think they did the last time they played. I think they did play in Seattle, so I'm going to assume this one's in L.A. I mean, hey, we get Pete Carroll back in USC Stadium. That should be always a fun thing to see. It's the second time we've seen it so far. I got to go Rams, especially coming off of that loss. The way that they lost, they're going to come back with a little bit more, oomph, a little bit more motivation, as they like to say, and I think they're going to take it to just too much for the Seahawks to handle.
All right. And the next one is the game of the week, Chris America. The Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets. I just have to ask you, Nathan Peterman versus the interception.
Who's your daddy?
This one's good. This is kind of like Florida versus Kentucky. It's a safe pick to pick Florida every single year, just like it's a safe pick to pick interception. And I don't think it changes this year. It changed for Kentucky this year. I don't think it's going to change this week for Nathan Peterman. The Jets defense is actually not a bad defense. They've held teams pretty good. It's really been the offense. It's really been the interception machine known as Sam Darnold that's really hurt the Jets and put their defense in precarious positions. But their defense is pretty solid over there in New York, so I think the interception is going to beat out Nathan Peterman yet again.
Well, Darnold will not be starting because of injury, so you're going to have Josh McCown out there. And on the Bills side, they have Derek Anderson, who's still in the concussion protocol. They have Josh Allen, who's missed the last 2 games that they're not sure if he's going to be back and ready and healthy. So they almost, by default, may be starting Nathan Peterman. The only way Nathan Peterman doesn't throw an interception is if somehow Josh Allen can get himself healthy and get back on it. Wow, almost out of time. You want to run through college games like in the next 30 seconds?
No, I'd like to take the next 30 seconds since we're talking about the Bills. Can we stop the nonsense of Alabama football could beat the Buffalo Bills? No, they cannot. This is a team full of professional football players who are at the top level of the sport, where you have maybe 5 to 10 guys who might be drafted, and then you have probably 3 to 4 who might stay on a roster for more than 3 years. Just stop with the nonsense. If you ever think that the Buffalo Bills would lose to the Alabama Crimson Tide, just turn on Buffalo Bills versus the Minnesota Vikings, and if you think the Alabama Crimson Tide are anywhere near as good as the Minnesota Vikings, then you just need to go check yourself into a mental hospital. But if you don't, and you're a normal person, then you'll realize that the Buffalo Bills, while they are bad, they are still good enough to blow out a solid NFL team like the Minnesota Vikings, and they would utterly embarrass the Alabama Crimson Tide. So please stop with your nonsense of Alabama could beat any NFL football team whatsoever. That is all.
Great show, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you,
looking forward to the
listeners, for
draft.
everything. We love you.
We
What'd
love
you say about the draft? The draft.
I'm looking forward to
don't bring
the-
up the draft again. Do not bring up the draft.
Are you going
Don't
to
do
post it this time?
I'm gonna. Can I send you a picture?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But make sure it's a picture of the draft. I don't want the weird one that you sent me last time.
Oh, that was my half romper.